You lie beneath a white light. A stranger leans over your open mouth, then the needle goes in. A few minutes later, the pain disappears. Now remove the light. Remove the chair. Remove the steel tools. Remove the anesthetic. Move the room into a Siberian cave. Then move the date back 59,000 years. A Neanderthal has a rotten molar. The decay has reached deep inside it. There is no pharmacy. There is no written anatomy. There is only stone, fire, hands, and pain. Yet someone begins drilling. That sounds impossible. For most of modern history, Neanderthals were portrayed as barely human, strong enough to hunt, smart enough to shape a spear, but not careful enough to treat a tooth. That picture is now breaking apart. In May 2026, Alisa Zubova and her colleagues published a remarkable study in PLOS One. They examined one damaged molar. Its name is Chegirskaya 64. It came from Chegirskaya Cave in southwestern Siberia. The tooth was found in layer 6C2. That layer dates to roughly 59,000 years ago. The molar belonged to an adult Neanderthal, and something had carved a hollow into its chewing surface, not a shallow scratch, a deep central cavity. It measured 4.2 millimeters long, it was 2.8 millimeters wide, and 2.6 millimeters deep. That is tiny in your hand. Inside a tooth, it is enormous. The hollow reached the pulp chamber. The pulp is the soft center. It holds nerves and blood vessels. When decay reaches it, pain can become relentless. Hot food hurts. Cold water hurts. Biting hurts. Sometimes the tooth hurts for no visible reason. The research team needed to explain the hole. Could ordinary chewing have created it? Could the tooth have cracked? Could the cave sediment have damaged it? The team tested those possibilities. The edges were rounded and smooth. The surrounding dentine showed demineralization. That means acids had stripped minerals from the tooth. In plain English, it showed decay. The cave layer was also unusually stable. The tooth had not been rolled around by water. It had not been scraped through loose rock. Then the researchers used micro-CT scanning. That is a three-dimensional X-ray at a tiny scale. They also studied the surface under magnification. Some marks reached 500 times enlargement. Finally, they performed experiments. They took modern human teeth. Then they used stone tools from similar raw materials. They drilled by hand. They rotated the points through dentine. The experimental marks matched the ancient ones. The team concluded that a stone perforator had been used. A perforator is a pointed tool made for making holes. The motion was controlled. Press, turn, lift, repeat. The goal appears to have been deliberate. Remove decayed tissue. Open the pulp chamber. Reach the source of the pain. This was not modern dentistry. There was no filling afterward. There was no root canal. There was no sterile suction tube. But it was invasive treatment. The tool entered diseased tissue on purpose. And that changes the question. Neanderthals were not merely enduring pain. At least one of them tried to remove its cause. The tooth also carried another clue. There were grooves between its surfaces. Those grooves came from repeated toothpicking. One mouth, two different techniques. One technique rubbed between the teeth. The other cut down through the top. That suggests more than random poking. It suggests a sequence. First, manage the irritation. Then attack the deeper problem. But Chegirskaya 64 was not the first warning. The evidence had been building for decades. In 2017, David Freyer and 3 colleagues studied another Neanderthal mouth. This one came from Krapina in Croatia. The individual is called Krapina dental person 20. The remains are around 130,000 years old. Only 4 lower teeth survived together, but all 4 carried unusual marks. There were deep toothpick grooves. There were scratches from probing. There were polished broken edges. One premolar sat in the wrong position. A wisdom tooth was rotated and partly impacted. Impacted means the tooth could not emerge normally. That can create pressure. It can trap food. It can inflame the surrounding tissue. The researchers called the manipulation palliative. That means it probably reduced suffering. It did not rebuild the mouth. It tried to make the problem bearable. They called it prehistoric dentistry. That phrase was cautious. The evidence could not identify the tool. It could not identify the operator. Maybe the Neanderthal treated the mouth alone. Maybe another person helped. A tooth does not preserve hands. Still, the marks were repeated. They appeared where the dental problems existed. That pattern is difficult to dismiss. Another case appeared in Spain. In 2013, Marina Lozano and her colleagues studied a Neanderthal specimen from Cova Forada near Valencia. The teeth showed severe wear. They also showed periodontal disease. That is infection and inflammation around the gums. Grooves ran between the diseased teeth. The researchers argued that repeated toothpicking may have soothed the sore tissue. Again, this was not a cure. It was targeted relief. That distinction matters. Medicine does not begin with a hospital. It begins when pain becomes a problem you can act upon. So what did the treatment actually feel like? Nobody can recover the exact scene. The tooth preserves action. It does not preserve conversation. But the physical limits are clear. Picture the cave floor. The air is cold. Firelight moves across the stone. The patient opens a painful mouth. A tiny stone point touches exposed dentine. There is no reliable numbness. Every movement must be controlled. Too much force could split the tooth. A slip could cut the gum. The tool must stay inside a space only millimeters wide. Now the point begins turning. The hand cannot shake wildly. It must rotate with precision. The patient must remain still. That alone requires trust. Perhaps the patient holds the tool. Perhaps a companion does. The fossil cannot decide between them. Either possibility is astonishing. Self-treatment requires brutal control. Treatment by another person requires cooperation. The procedure probably hurt. The 2026 researchers found evidence of wear inside the hollow after it formed. That means the tooth remained in use. The person kept chewing. The intervention was not the final event in that mouth. Life continued afterward. That detail matters. A random break can happen in one instant. Polished wear needs repeated contact. Food crossed that hollow again and again. The mouth returned to work. The treatment may not have saved the tooth forever. It did something more basic. It bought usable time. For a mobile group, usable time could mean another season. But stone alone cannot explain survival. A procedure is only one moment. Recovery takes longer. That is where the rest of the Neanderthal record becomes important. In 2017, Eric Trinkhaus and Sebastian Viat re-examined Shanidar 1. This Neanderthal lived in what is now northern Iraq. His body carried a stunning list of impairments. A crushing injury damaged his left eye socket. His right forearm and hand were lost or severely reduced. His gait was abnormal. Bone growths blocked much of both ear canals. Those growths probably caused serious hearing loss. Yet Shanidar 1 survived into roughly 35 to 45 years of age. That was not childhood survival. That was years of adaptation. He could not hunt, climb, hear, carry like an uninjured adult. Someone had to tolerate his slower pace. Someone likely shared food. Someone made space for him besides the fire. No single bone records a bowl of water. No fossil records a hand under an elbow. But survival records time. And time is what care creates. In 2018, archaeologist Penny Spikins and her colleagues reviewed Neanderthal healthcare. They examined healed injuries across many individuals. Their conclusion was direct. Care was not a rare accident. It appeared widespread. It was usually practical, and it reduced the risk of losing injured group members. That is the counterintuitive part. Neanderthal medicine may not have centered on a special healer. It may have been built into ordinary life. One person brought food, another protected the fire, another cleaned an injury, another slowed group, no white coat, no title, still medicine. Plants may have played a role too. In 2012, Karen Hardy and a large research team analyzed dental calculus from 5 Neanderthals at El Cedron in northern Spain. Dental calculus is hardened plaque. It traps microscopic remains for thousands of years. The team found evidence of cooked plant foods. They also reported evidence consistent with medicinal plant use. That does not prove a Neanderthal pharmacy. It does not prove anesthesia. And it does not tell you what touched Chagarskaya 64. The distance between Spain and Siberia is enormous. The dates are different too. But the finding shows something important. Neanderthals knew plants as more than scenery. They selected them, they cooked them, they carried knowledge about their surroundings. That knowledge could have supported treatment. Could bitter leaves reduce discomfort? Could resin protect a damaged surface? Could warm water clean a mouth? Those possibilities are reasonable. But they are not yet proven for this procedure. The secure evidence is smaller and stronger. A diseased tooth existed. A stone tool entered it. Different motions left different marks. The person used the tooth afterward. That is enough. So did Neanderthals perform surgery without medicine? The question hides a modern mistake. It treats medicine as a collection of products: anesthetic, antibiotics, stainless steel, electric drills. Those things make treatment safer. They make pain smaller. They save lives. But they are not the beginning of medicine. The beginning is recognition. Something inside the body is wrong. The next step is intention. Something can be done. Then comes intervention. A hand changes the body to reduce suffering. By that definition, the drilling was medicine. So was the toothpick. So was the shared meal. So was the slower walk beside Shanadar 1. The biggest surprise is not that Neanderthals lacked medicine. It is that you were taught not to recognize theirs. Their medicine left no bottles. It left altered teeth. It left healed bone. It left people alive long after injury. And it left one uncomfortable truth. The Neanderthal body was not treated as disposable. A painful tooth mattered. A disabled adult mattered. An injured group member remained part of the group. That changes how you picture the cave. It was not only a shelter from weather, it was also a place of recovery. Not every treatment worked. Many infections must have won. Many injuries left no healed bone. Pain was still pain. Loss was still common. Nothing here turns prehistory into comfort. It reveals something quieter. Care existed before certainty. People acted before they fully understood. They used the tools they had. They watched what helped. They remembered what failed. Then they passed those choices forward. That is how medical knowledge begins. Not as a textbook, as attention. You entered this story beneath a white light. A needle made your pain disappear. 59,000 years earlier, there was no needle. There was only a stone point, a steady hand, and someone who decided your pain was worth treating.